Alright, let's face it. The monthly challenges in Path of Champions, as they are now, are a slog to get through. My goal with this guide is to make them as painless as possible by showing you various challenge modifiers, tough bosses, and the champions you'll need to beat them. To start, let's cover modifiers that help you in some way. There are a whopping 19 modifiers in this category, so let's get to work. I love organizing things alphabetically, so let's start with Arcane Emissions. For this one, you could realistically use any spellcaster, but there are some champs that need immediate spell mana, especially Jace and Lux, who want to play expensive spells to further their game plans. Next is Arms Race. The Funsmiths greatly benefit spell or skill-based champions like Annie, Jhin, Swain, and Twisted Fates, all of which play spells or skills, and play them extremely well. Let's move on to Combat Awareness. Scout is a keyword, so use this with champs who like keywords, like Elise, Kaisa, and King. You can also beat this with champs who end games quickly, like Diana, Jax, or Vayne. Dying Laughing is a modifier that benefits literally every champion you play, but it's especially good with Shadow Isles champions that don't mind units dying, such as Viego. If you have the Strength of Stone relic, you can use the Prankster's stats to your advantage. Credit goes to Lemonation for this Ambessa build. Now we have Embrace the Current, which works well with spellcasters, including Mel, who wants to cast multiple spells per turn, so the extra spell mana is very beneficial for her. Nami already has Embrace the Current as one of her star powers, so use her for these challenges to play a ridiculous number of spells each turn. And Set can use the extra spell mana to play coins, allowing his units to snowball and even get rallies as well. Next up is On Guard. This modifier triggers targeting effects from Phalanx champions, such as Ambessa, Leona, and Yuumi, which all take no damage when you use the single combat on their units. Kayn also works well into this modifier because his units fully heal after killing a unit. It can be tricky to know who to use into the Forest Workout modifier, but try to pair it with champs that benefit from scout attacks, like Jax, Misfortune, Vayne, and the newly powered up Elise, who will crush anything in her path when all her spiders' power gets doubled multiple times per round. Guided Meditation works perfectly with expensive champions such as Tryndamere and Volibear. You can also try it with spellcasters who take advantage of the Chemtech Duplicator relic, including Lux and several others. Next up is Lingering Shadows, which pairs well with Shadow Isles champions whose units happen to die a lot, including Thresh and Viego. Magic Number sets the mana of every card you draw to 3, and works well with champs that want their expensive cards cheaper, like Anivia. Since most cards in her deck cost 4 or more, Elder Dragon should be your go-to with this modifier, as his star powers make base 6+ cost cards cheaper. This applies after this modifier, allowing you to play a 1-mana Elder Dragon on turn 1. And Volibear kills everything on sight, so play him early and watch your problems disappear. Merciless Marksman summons a unit that plays a skill, so pair this with skill-based champions like Annie, Jhin, and Misfortune, who also benefits from the Shock and Awe relic, allowing you to attack with the Crackshot Corsair and deal even more damage. With all the extra draw Mountain Peak gives you and your opponent, it's the best spot to use your trap champions, which include Caitlyn and Fiddlesticks, who can also take advantage of the mana discounts. And don't forget Teemo or Spirit Blossom Teemo. Anyone can use Natural Magic, which makes all cards cheaper, but here are some champs who take best advantage. Master Yi, who can abuse this modifier thanks to the draw he gets from his champion spell. Vayne, who can use this modifier to somehow kill things even quicker than she normally does. And Janna's entire kit revolves around playing things at a discount, so she's a no-brainer here as well. Nautical Nuisance gives you max spell mana each turn, so it's a spellcaster's wet dream. Use this modifier with Jace, Lux, and Set wants to spend lots of mana each turn, so this suits him just fine, and there are countless other spellcasters who benefit from this as well. You can also use this with champs who generate spells every round, like Garen, Kayle, and Tryndamere. Repetition benefits the same kind of champions as Nautical Nuisance, so use this modifier with half-decent spellcasters like Jace, Lux, Mel, Nami, Set, Swain, etc. And because the copied spells count as created cards, this is a great modifier for Victor, who will level up pretty dang fast. Savage Mysticism lets you ramp mana quickly, so it's a great option for expensive champions or decks like Elder Dragon, Shyvana, and Volibear. You can also beat it with Chemtech duplicator champs such as Jhin, Lee Sin, Lux, and Set. Trick of the Light lets you double all your created cards. Combine this with champions who enjoy using the Dreadway Chase Gun relic, like Annie, who deals even more damage thanks to her star powers. Trick of the Light also greatly benefits champions with Create synergy, like Aurelian Soul and Victor. Unnatural Selection benefits keyword-based champs like the Poro King and Elise, who really doesn't need more stats, but this modifier gives it to her anyway. You could argue that Unstoppable Force is not a beneficial power, but I think the extra stats and overwhelm make it more beneficial than detrimental. Use this modifier with fast champions like Darius, Diana, Elise, Pike I guess, and the Poro King. Finally, Vestige of Helia greatly benefits spellcasters that don't target enemies, such as Master Yi, who gives opponents a nice mega bonk with all his spells being this much cheaper. Full credit to Lemonation for the following Nami build. Nami can use this setup to buff herself to insane levels, then wreck the enemy nexus. This setup also works with the Embrace the Current modifier we discussed earlier. And while not a spellcaster, Vi really enjoys having cheap cards to play, as it allows her to level up and end the game much faster. Now let's move on to what I'm calling the mildly annoying modifiers. These modifiers will make things a bit more challenging for you, but generally aren't serious enough to cause a loss if you're unprepared for them. First up in this category is Adoribus. This makes your strongest follower totally useless at the start of each round. To get around this, use champ-reliant decks like Evelynn, Jhin, Mel, and there are countless other decks that rely on your champion to win. Next, animated armor can be pretty annoying if you're not prepared. To counter it, you can either use champs with big HP like Evelynn, you can focus on control champions such as Veigar, or use Kayn, whose units fully heal on kills. Some might consider Bandle Magic to be a beneficial modifier, but I absolutely hate the way the extra units clog your hand. However, you can take advantage of all those created units by either playing Aurelian Soul or Victor, whose created cards scale up while allowing him to level faster. Up next is Chronicle of Ruin. The best way to counter all this death is by using explosive finale champions such as Jhin or Vex. You can also try out cheap champions with the Guardian Angel relic like Annie, who can really bring the pain with the right relic build. I hope you like sales, cause we've got a 2-for-1 here. Frenzied Fighting and its lesser version, Rock Too Hard. To counter these modifiers, you can use champs that nullify this damage, like Tahm Kench, who absorbs the damage and gives his units more power as well. Or quick champions who benefit from Frenzied Fighting's extra stats, such as Darius, who generally kills the enemy within 1 or 2 attacks. Let's now move on to mercy killings. Warwick should be your go-to with this one. His 4th star power damages most enemies, making killing them ridiculously easy. You could also use a lot of spellcasters for this modifier, such as Mel, whose spread damage makes it easy to threaten multiple enemies every turn. You can also try out champions that utilize damage pings, including Anivia and Misfortune, whose pings can sting just a little more than most others. Next is Minimalist, which may seem intimidating at first. To take advantage of the extra mana, use cheap champions that can do a lot of damage, like Mel, whose cheap spells mean she could probably win the game with even less starting mana, Nidalee, who can win in an attack or 2 with extra mana, and Vayne, who appreciates the extra mana but really doesn't need it to win. Now we have Mortal Marks, the little brother to Small Stuff, who we'll talk about later. To counter this, use champions with damage pings, including Jack, who kills their units anytime he gains mana, and Jinx, who just needs to play cards to kill opponents with this modifier. Only the Strong is another modifier that may seem intimidating at first, but you can use some champions and have this work in your favor. Shadow Isles champs love this modifier, especially Spirit Blossom Kindred, aka the Taker, who completely counters this modifier, and Viego will often be your strongest unit and needs powerful allies to die for him to level. You can also use big champions that scale, such as Garen, who gains a good amount of stats every time he strikes. Or you can just ignore this modifier by playing one-hit knockout champs like Elise and Vayne. Finally, the price of progress can be pretty annoying, as your units will be more expensive. However, spellcasters love this, as often their spells are more important than their units anyway. Try out Master Yi, who never complains about playing free spells, Mel, who can use this modifier to clear the enemy board for free, and others. And keep in mind champs who generate spells every turn, including Garen, Kael, and Tryndamere. All of them appreciate their signature spells being either significantly discounted or free. I believe Akshan is worth mentioning here as well, as he relies on spells and appreciates the discount, but I wouldn't classify him as a spellcaster. Our final category is challenging modifiers. These can lead to losses if you're not careful, and require careful planning, especially at higher difficulty levels. For the greatest chance of success, you're going to want to save your best champions to deal with these. Up first is Blade in the Darkness, a modifier that punishes you for playing slow champions with minimal control. Ideally, you want your opponent's units to not strike your nexus at all, so bring out your best control champions here, such as Swain, who's the ultimate solution for modifiers that require control. You can also bring out your one-hit knockout champions for this, including Elise, Misfortune, and Vayne. And with the right relic builds, Akshan has a decent amount of control and defensive adaptability as well. Next, Chorus of Power demands your best control champions or champions that end the game quickly, or the opponent will quickly overwhelm you with units. Here's where I typically bust out my Swain for cleanup duty, something he's become awfully good at. For quick champions, use Elise, who typically ends the game within 2 attacks. Misfortune can deal insane amounts of damage during combat, especially if she's at 6 stars, and Vayne works as well. Let's move on to Hemorrhage, which punishes you for not dealing with the enemy board. You can handle this modifier with elite control champions such as Jhin, whose captive audience spells are phenomenal at removing enemy units. You can also deal with this modifier with other champions, just make sure you're not using ones that are too slow. I had success with Anivia in this match. Up next is Power Overwhelming, which at face value seems terrifying, but so long as you don't let the game drag out to more than 4 or 5 turns, you'll be okay. I've managed to beat this modifier with Gwen, who's a force to be reckoned with because of her quick attack and hallowed buffs. Mel, whose ability to increase the power of her spells surpasses enemy unit scaling, and Viego, who's borderline unstoppable when he hits the board, especially at 6 stars. Now here we are, folks. We've come to arguably the most annoying modifier in all the monthly challenges, small stuff. You've got several options for this one. You can use champs who get around it entirely, like Yuumi, whose attach mechanic doesn't count as summoning a unit. Her deck has several attach units that help you bypass this modifier. Or you can use spell-based champions such as Jinx, whose damage primarily comes from playing and discarding cards. Swain, the best spell slinger in the game, who also nukes the board when played from hand. And Vex, who deals damage by killing her opponents with spells. Finally, there's Undying Rage. Whatever you do, don't let these games draw out too long. Undying Rage isn't really an issue in the early turns, but can become a huge problem when they're playing 6, 7, or 8+ mana units that aren't easily killed. You can either power through with a challenger keyword or champs that just railroad through with big units. Or you can ignore the modifier altogether with Ahri, who has a build where she just strikes the nexus when summoned and doesn't really care what the opponent is doing. Now let's take a look at some bosses or mini-bosses I think you should take seriously. First is Azir. His ability to spawn multiple units can be dangerous with many modifiers. Ideally, you want to shut these units down and avoid taking a lot of damage. Go with champs with decent control or can deal a lot of damage quickly. Following that is Ezreal, who's one of the most annoying bosses in the whole mode. He has access to cheap control options including his Mystic Shots, Static Shot, and also has a brutal double stun spell. He can kill your units and beat you if you don't end the game quickly enough. You need decks that aren't too reliant on one unit for damage, and ideally can take out Ezreal shortly after they play him. Up next is Aurelia, who has a variety of units that can attack multiple times per turn, including her. These can be punishing with her quick attack. You need champions that have good control options and can take her out immediately, or quick champions of your own that can win within a turn or two, so her damage isn't threatening. Moving on, we have Katarina. Her ability to buff her units when played and trigger multiple rallies can catch some players off guard. You don't need to adjust your playstyle too much against her, but make sure you have a way to deal with her after she's played, so she doesn't snowball out of control. Finally, Zed has the Blade in the Darkness modifier. Don't mess around with him or he'll make you pay. When Zed gets played at 3 mana, make sure you have a way to deal with him. If you don't, and he strikes your Nexus, it's gonna hurt. His deck plays a lot of elusive units, so it's pretty difficult to avoid any instance of damage from his deck, but try to at least take out his biggest threats so you avoid taking excess damage at the end of your turn. For Zed, especially at higher difficulty levels, bring out your best control champs or ones capable of one-shotting opponents. Before I go, I'd like to offer you some suggestions for champions that I think work well into many modifiers. I've tried to keep these suggestions to one champion per region, though I've included some extras. First up is Ahri, representing Ionia. Though rarely mentioned in this video, Ahri is an excellent choice in the monthly challenges, even if you don't have her at a high star power level. Her recall effects can be used both offensively and defensively, making her one of the most versatile champions in the game. Next is Akshan, representing Shurima. Similar to Ahri, Akshan's kit comes with a lot of versatility, mostly thanks to the options he receives from Warlord's Palace. Many of his relic builds abuse his champion spell, Grappling Hook, which allows him to kill a minimum of 1 unit per turn. This, combined with his cheap cost and the great scaling his units receive from his star powers, make him the best control option Shurima has for this mode. If I had to pick a champion from Freljord, I'd be tempted to pick Anivia, mostly because I don't have Ashe at 6 stars yet. If you can find cheap elemental spells, I think Anivia is unstoppable, but that's easier said than done in this mode. Unless you're using her into a challenge that gives you more mana gems, make sure you use Anivia in adventures with a mini-boss and final boss, and therefore one that has a shop that can help you find elemental spells. Next is Elise, representing Shadow Isles. She works well into keyword-oriented modifiers like Unnatural Selection. She also works with Scouts amazingly, so she excels into forest workouts and combat awareness. At 6 stars, she has Terrify synergy for Mountain Peak. She can end games very quickly and works well into Unstoppable Force, Power Overwhelming, and Chorus of Power. Finally, she can be used with Wailing Spirits, though ideally you should save her for tougher challenges. As far as the Runeterra region is concerned, I think it's a tie between Fiddlesticks and Jhin. Deciding who's better between them is like asking a parent who their favorite child is, and I think they're both phenomenal at what they do and deserve this spot. Jinx, representing Piltover and Zaun. Jinx's ability to do insane amounts of burst damage at the start of a game, and then fill her hand with damage spells afterwards, makes her one of the best problem solvers in the monthly challenges. Jinx can tear apart anything you throw at her. Misfortune, representing Bilgewater. At 6 stars, Misfortune becomes a damage machine. The increase she receives to her spells and skills during combat makes her simultaneously one of the best offensive and defensive champions you can use in the monthly challenges. As a region, I have the hot take that Targon just kinda sucks. Clearly, Aurelian Soul is the most fun, but the best champion might be Morgana, though I don't like using her because I think she's slow as molasses. If there's no created card synergy and you can't use Aurelian Soul, my advice would be just to avoid anyone from this region unless there's a gun to your head. Next is Swain, representing Noxus, the best control champion in the game, bar none. I use him whenever there is a difficult challenge that I just don't want to deal with. You name it, he can handle it. If you don't have him at 6 stars yet, what are you doing? Go get it. Vayne, representing Demacia, the ultimate problem solver in the monthly challenges. Vayne can one-shot anything this mode throws at her, so if you ever need a champion to end games quickly, look no further. Finally, Warwick, representing Piltover and Zaun. With a great combination of control and damage, there's a lot to like with Warwick. His star powers allow his unit's attack to scale to unprecedented levels, making him better as the game goes on. Rarely will you regret picking him. That's all I have for this one. With a topic as big as this, I know I've missed some things, so feel free to drop your recommendations in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this guide and want to see more like it, check out this playlist. This is the longest I've ever worked on a single video for this channel, so it would mean a lot to me if you liked and subscribed, as both of those greatly help these guides reach a bigger audience. Thank you, and take care.